here. All right. We are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Power Talk interview this week with Sarah and I, founders of Sharp Retention. Again, our goal with these videos is to add value to you all, our community of clients and friends. So thank you for being with us. And today we have none other than the king of CMG Mortgage himself, Mr. Kory Kavanewsky. If you don't know Kory yet, he did $150 million in loan volume in 2018. He's currently outpacing 2018, having closed about $28 million in loan volume just this past month of June. Yep, and on pace for about $25 million in loan volume to be closed in this month of July. Let that sink in for a second, guys. That is a lot of loans. Kory is one of the most knowledgeable and respected people in the entire industry, a true expert at doing mortgages. And what I respect most about Kory is that he helps his clients above and beyond just getting their loan closed on time. He becomes a valuable asset to his clients long term, right? And that's really what I think sets Kory apart. He's a personal friend of mine for close to a decade now. I've been working with Kory. Love the guy. He's a family man, lives an amazing life down here on beautiful Coronado Island. And anytime I get a chance to connect with Kory, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you on with us today. How you doing, buddy?
Thank you. Wow. Whew. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to spend some time with you guys, and I always learn from you guys as well. So the feeling's mutual, and I'm excited to chat with you.
Thanks, buddy. Well, the top of the call today, guys, is going to be database management. And whether you're a realtor or a loan officer, mortgage professional, or you're in another business, maybe you're in insurance, life insurance, any kind of business that you are in, database management is something that's super important. And when you provide a world-class product like Kory does, and give a world-class experience for your quote unquote customers, your customers become raving fan clients for life. And Kory, I just wanted you to tell us, just for starters, just a little bit about behind your philosophy about running a client-first business and what it really means to be relational versus transactional.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, if you look at the mortgage industry, the real estate industry, and frankly, so many others today, they're in jeopardy, right? With everything going online and with everything being so tech driven. I'm not so sure that's what the customer wants, and I think I'm actually proof of that. But that's what some customers want, right? And we're kind of all swimming in potentially that ocean with the Quickens of the world and the Purple Bricks of the world and so on. And you have to be able to find a way to separate yourself. And there's different ways you can do that, and you can be unique and you can be different. And today, I think a big part of being unique and being different is kind of going back to basics, talking to people, spending time with people, connecting with people. It's easy to say, go online and fill out this application, or read more about our services here. It's easy to push people into self-service. I just went into a recently remodeled Target, and there was like 2 check stands and everything else was self-service. And I was like, oh my gosh, like they're really cutting costs that badly to the point where it's like, I really am probably not going to be able to go through a human to get out of here. Like you used to have the choice. Mm-hmm. Now, not so much, right? And that's not what everybody wants. And being unique and different really could mean going back to the way things were to some degree. Now, you need technology in certain parts of your business, but I don't think it needs to be at the front of it. And so I've chosen in my business to not go that direction when it comes to, entering my business, so to speak. I meet with my customers individually on, it's me, it's not somebody else, it's not a computer. We don't, use a lot of template stuff to get people to come to us. We don't do a lot of online lead gen and that sort of thing. And so as a result of that, we get what I would call a sort of stickier customer, a customer that remembers us, the customer that wants to really work with us and is more human than, a lot of what I see out there today in mortgage and real estate, which is what's it going to cost me? There's someone that's cheaper and that, sort of model, which I try to stay away from. And you guys are probably familiar with Blue Ocean strategy. If you're not, that's a great book to check out. I tend to swim in a blue ocean versus a red ocean, and it's a much better place to be.
So what do you mean by that? Blue. So I haven't read that book. We're going to put that in the show notes, guys. So we're going to go ahead and put that in the comments. So Blue Ocean Strategy, I'm in. I'm buying it as soon as we're done with this. Tell us about what that means.
Well, don't buy it because it's already on its way to you. I've got it coming your way. Okay, so blue ocean is an ocean where you can swim freely without sharks, without concerns, without a lot of headaches. A red ocean is a bloody waters where there's people just going down left and right, and you're going down with them, but you're fighting. You're fighting real hard to not, but it's inevitable that you will. So if I try to compete with Quicken from the angle of technology and website and call center, there's no way. I mean, it would take me decades to catch up to where they are. And kudos to them. They've created a great system and it works for a certain client, and there's Ferraris out there and there's Hyundais out there and everyone's making cars, but I don't want to swim in the ocean with them because it's not a good place for me to swim. And frankly, it's not the model that I enjoy or appreciate as a customer myself. But separate of that, the red ocean is where most people are, essentially. It's where most people are. And so I don't want to be most people. I don't want to be Quicken. Good for them that they're doing a bunch of biz, but that's not what I want to do. I don't want to be them.
Yeah.
Right. So, go ahead, Sarah.
Well, it's interesting that you state all this because technology sometimes has been pushed down people's throats when you're in business, that it's the edge you need. When it's kind of been shown that people are straying away. So I love that's your focus.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I recently had lunch with Adam and we were getting coffee or something. And he's like, he tells me his phone, he's turned off the notifications for like texting, email. So his phone is just not, chirping at him. He'll look at his phone when he wants to look at it. And I'm like, you know what that said to me? I mean, that said to me that he wanted to hang out and talk, and it wasn't like he needed to be distracted or attending to other things. Now, most people love that they can just do everything at any second from your cell phone. And that technology has really changed the world, obviously, dramatically. And in some ways it's great, but I have to wonder, I used to like to drive in my car and listen to music and think about things, and it doesn't happen very much anymore. So, sometimes technology can work against you as much as it can help you. We embrace technology in many ways in our business, of course. But when it comes to the client experience, specifically what Adam, asked about, we really focus on being human.
Yeah. And it's not, it's not checking out at Target. It's not putting a bag tag on at Southwest Airlines. We're talking about, especially in the world of real estate and loans, we're talking about a lot of these people are having the biggest wealth transfer of their lifetime. And you're just going to go through a robot like you would go through a Target line. That's not very smart. Like, you should get educated. You should talk to somebody like yourself. It's like, well, hey, what's your goals here? What's your outcome? Okay, now let's make a plan that is in line with your outcome. And that's why I see you as a valuable resource, because you're more than just a loan officer. You're educated. You understand tax implications and financial goals and different things. So you've made yourself a more valuable resource for your clients. And that's the distinction, right? I'm not getting an Uber or checking out at Target. If I'm buying a house, especially in San Diego, California, I'm potentially doing the biggest wealth transfer I will ever do and setting myself for the longest payment plan of my entire life, potentially, right? So it makes sense to go to an expert advisor versus like, well, it's just easier to type on Quicken. Well, just because something's easy doesn't mean it's valuable. In fact, usually it means it's not valuable, right? So I would absolutely argue that point. And, in terms of technology, for a lot of lenders and realtors and just business people in general, I like your mindset where you're like, hey, how can I leverage this? Okay, yeah, it's going to bring some competition, but their business model is not ours. And this is something else that you and I were talking about at our thing. You're like, hey, you guys could do this promo product or this or whatever. And I'm like, hey, we really decided that we're quality only, and quality is not cheap, but it's good. And that's kind of what we want to represent. And so I think, and I'd be curious to get your opinion, the advice that I give to people is like, figure out what your value proposition is going to be. Like, what are you selling? What is your core competency? What are you all about, right? And so for you, Kory, how did you sit down and get clear and say, you know what? I'm not going to compete with Quicken on technology. I'm not going to compete with this on this. This is what I'm going to stand for. This is my value prop as a loan officer, and create that and then execute. How did you create the time and get clarity to do that so that you're not caught, well, now you got to compete with this and now you got to go do this. And then you find yourself confused about what your own core competencies are?
Yeah, great question. I think focus is a big part of that. You have to be able to focus on not only what your core competencies are, and also what your USP is, but also who you're going to talk to, what your audience is, and staying focused on that. Because when you think about how many loans there are, how many real estate transactions there are in just the little county that we're in, or good sized county that we're in, San Diego, right? There is a ton. You don't need to have 90% market share. You want to have as much market share as you can, but the reality is someone like me is doing 50, 60, 70 loans in a month. It's a lot in comparison to maybe some other loan people, but in the grand scheme of things of what's going on, it's not. So you need to focus on who your customer is, who your business partners, ideal business partners are. And if you can stay focused on that, then you cannot get drifted, or you cannot drift into these other areas that can be major time sucks, where you're now battling in that red ocean, because you're like, well, wait, it's a deal. Hold on, I'll be in, and you wander and you go chasing that the same way you guys aren't going to go and create, luggage or whatever. You could, and you could put your brand on there and all that, but it's just not your focus. And
that really speaks standards, right? And having intentional standards and not saying yes to everything. And I think that's a common thing, that people are just like, oh, somebody wants to do business with me, and they run that direction, versus qualifying that relationship and making sure it's a good fit.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Another good read is The One Thing. If you guys haven't, that's a good one too. I see a lot of people in our industry not focusing on, one or two or three things. Instead, they are everything. They are business owner, they are marketing person, they are front end sales guy, but they are crisis mode loan savior. And how many things can one person be expected to perfect? Even if you're good at multitasking, there's no way as a multitasker you're going to do as well as someone else who is an expert on one thing.
Not only you're not doing as well, but your quality of life is not going to be as good.
Well, which circles right back around and messes you up in other places too. But do you want to get to database management?
Yeah. So I was enjoying that. Yeah. So tell us, database management. Tell us a little bit about kind of the nuts and bolts of the philosophy, and then what you actually do to have such an awesome database, and how much of your database becomes future and repeat referral business.
Right. Okay. So first of all, I started with database management. The first time someone said it to me, I took it and I ran with it. It was Tim Brahim. It was 2003. I had been in the business for 60 days. And I just got lucky that I heard him, and he said, do one thing, do this, and I did it.
Especially early on. Congrats.
Yeah, I did it. So I invested, money into Act software, which was the big thing at that time.
Remember it. Yep.
Yeah. And we had multiple users going into one database, and it was I had laptops in different offices that were connecting to desktops. I did my own little, Jimmy work on it, and just kept it rolling. And for me, it's been huge. You mentioned 28 million last month, 25 million this month.
Wow.
A lot of that is due to that, because I can go into my database and quickly identify prospects. That's probably obvious. And frankly, you can do that probably outside of a CRM today with a loan origination software. If you've been at your company for a while, you can probably sort through good customers who might be ripe for a refinance opportunity. But with database management, you're constantly in touch with them through different, mediums of communication. And so then when that opportunity does come up, it's a very quick, connection and close, frankly. We're, 28 million, 25 million, that's twice the normal volume. And that's purely because we can go into the database and identify people, and we've been in touch with them so frequently through database management that they're ready.
Yep.
Hey, so glad you called. What do I need to know? Boom, 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 go, right? If you don't have a database, you can't keep in touch with your customers. So we talk about how important it is to keep in touch and to be human. Well, even if you're a great person and you're really good at doing that, you can't do that real effectively without a system, and the CRM becomes your system. Adam said, look, you're a realtor, you should have this. It doesn't matter what business you're in. I vividly remember having a conversation with my barber about, when are you going to get your own place? And it's what you need to do. You need to take business cards from everybody that comes in here. You put them in your database, and you do a free haircut every 8 times and all this stuff. And he's just like, what? But really, why not, right? If you don't have a organized way in which to communicate with your customers, both individually, but also in groups, then you're missing a huge opportunity. And I know there's a lot of people who are going to watch this and listen to this and go, okay, I've been hearing that for a long time, and I've been meaning to do it, and I haven't done it, and I've done okay, so I'm going to continue to not do it because why should I if I've gotten to this point?
Right.
There's no big successful business out there that isn't practicing this. Okay.
Yeah.
So, whether it's Starbucks or it's Bank of America or it's Dell Computers or it's you guys at Sharp, you have to have this if you want to be considered a legitimate business, and you've got to be in touch with your customers, and you can't be in touch with them if you don't have a database. So it doesn't really matter which one you use. I happen to use Jungo and Salesforce, which is terrific. Nice. But there are other good ones out there. The bottom line is, don't spend your whole life trying to figure out which one's the best. Get one, stick with it. And here's, I think, kind of was like a transforming thing for me. I used to overthink what I do in terms of database management and how I connect with people. And at some point I just said, you know what, not connecting with them is a failure. So anything other than that, and I'm probably okay. And, it's go into my conference room on a Saturday and jot down what I want my touches to look like. I know, Adam, you mentioned you guys have a system that you follow with respect to, keeping in touch with people, and, you change it up, right? It's text, and it's an email, and it's a gift, and it's a card, and it's a personal phone call, and it's a video, and it's a social media, and all these things. And, you sketch it all out on a piece of paper and get it programmed into your system. And it does take a couple of hours to set that up, but once it's set up, it's running.
Systems.
Systems. So when my client, closes on a transaction, automatically they're going to hear from me a whole bunch over their life. But for example, 30 days after they close, they're going to get an email from me that says, hey, now that your loan is closed, just as settled, we should really get a copy of your closing statement over to your financial advisor and your CPA. Awesome. And your CPA, right? Because they're going to need these things, and they're going to ask you for it, and you're going to be like, I don't know where that is. And you're going to be searching Gmail and all this stuff to try and find it, right? And it's not the final, it's almost final. And it's so I'm going to be proactive. And I'm going to tell my customer, why don't we get this to these people now so that they have it? So it's one less thing that you've got to worry about down the road, right? What does that do for me? Well, for one, they love that I'm thinking about them after closing. And I'm not just thinking about them in the way of like, hey, thanks for the business, but I'm actually continuing to help them, right? Yeah. Beyond that, I've now opened the door to connect with their financial advisor, with their CPA. And look, if my client's a great client, wouldn't I want to connect with the people that are important to them? Why wouldn't I? Right?
Wow. Yeah.
It goes out automatically. I don't do anything. 30 days after closing, automatically goes out. I get a reply. Kory, would love to have you send that over. I've copied John, my financial advisor at so-and-so. Great. I'm going to get in touch with John and handle that from that point forward. So, if I said to a loan officer, hey, just 30 days after closing, go ahead and do this, what's going to happen? 30 days goes, well, 30 days is a Saturday, so it doesn't happen. Right. Or 30 days I'm slammed, so it doesn't happen, right? Automation helps me. Technology helps me there. It's a great way to use it. I can go on, but
let me just say really quick, having done 3 home purchases in the last 3 years, getting that little statement over my accountant, thank you. Yeah. Right. Like, that's incredible. That little bit after, that truly does, that alone, that's great. And then using the support of the database, obviously,
Yep.
Do you take notes with pretty much every client interaction that you or your team has with somebody? Does it go into the database?
Not every interaction,
Right.
but certainly milestone interactions or significant interactions.
Right.
Certainly initial calls, important topics get put in there. During a loan transaction, we might have 50 touches with a customer. They're not all going in there, but
Right.
the key ones are, and we have notes about those things. 11 months after closing, we know that they're about to renew their homeowners insurance. I don't sell homeowners insurance. I handle home loans for people, but I want my clients to know that I'm thinking about them a year later. So, now might be a good time for us to just make sure you've got the right insurance, first of all, because, some things have changed. Maybe you've remodeled or home appreciation. Maybe rates have been adjusted, insurance rates, right? So they're going to get an email from us. Hey, now's the time to take a look at this. You're about to renew. Let me know if you'd like me to recommend somebody, right? Obviously, there's opportunity all around there, but primarily focused on the customer and thinking, hey, maybe we should look at this because when we bought our house, we were kind of rushed and now we're not.
Right.
So, there's so much you can do in terms of client communication, both automated and personal, but you have to start with having a system.
Right.
And if you don't have a database in place, then I don't see how you pull this off. My coach always says to me, how is this going to work when you're doing 3 times as what you're doing today?
Oh,
that's a great question.
Because there are plenty of people out there that are successful at what they do, and they're closing 5 transactions a month. And you know what? They can kind of manage a lot of this stuff kind of in chaos, and it kind of works. But if the plan is to do more, how are you going to manage it then? And if you're going to change it then, why don't we change it now, set it up for success? And so for those people who are watching, who are thinking, I'm not really to that level yet, but once I get there, I'll do that. Kind of need it to get there,
Wow. That's super powerful. If people don't get anything than that, how are you going to do this, what you're doing right now, when you're doing 3 times the volume that you're doing right now? What's that going to look like?
That's right.
And that's an amazing place. I mean, that gives me chills. That is the question. That is the question to ask, though, right? I mean, everything, because people have, I think, a false perception that to do more volume, oh man, for Kory to do 150 million last year, I'm sure his relationship with his family's terrible, and his quality of life is terrible, and his health probably went to hell. Like, people like to create that so that they don't have to get to that volume. They like to, but I know you, so I know you have an amazing life. You have an amazing quality of health and relationships, et cetera. So let's go into that a little bit. So tell us about that. So like last year, out of that 150 million, when you run an organized business and you have a system and you have a database and you're adding value to your clients above and beyond just closing the transaction in time, and you're actually staying in touch, how much of that 150 million came from that database in either the form of repeat or referral business, ballpark percentage wise?
Yeah, it's roughly 50%. It's a lot.
Whoa, that's incredible.
Yeah, it really it is. But at the same time, it kind of makes sense, right? I mean, if you're going to go into a room of random people and try to sell them your product, or you're going to go into a room of people that you've worked with before and sell them your product, where do you feel you'd have the most success?
Yeah.
Again, blue water, right? I oftentimes find people who are sort of obsessing over the amount of refi and purchase business on the loan side, or new versus database business, maybe in the real estate side. And I kind of hear people almost, be really proud of themselves. That's like 90% purchase. And I think that that's really cool. And it is something to be proud of. But I have to wonder, why is it that, the clients aren't coming back? Because there's a lot of opportunity, particularly on the loan side. I think you're actually healthier at a 50-50, 60-40, 60 being purchase, position than you are if you're not. Again, the people that I talk to that are doing 90% purchase, they're missing major opportunity. They're closing new deals and meeting new people and all that, but that's a cycle.
Right.
That cost to acquire that new client, right?
That's right.
Constantly after that new client versus retaining the relationship. Wow.
That's right. So let's keep acquiring, because if you're not growing, you're dying. But let's not neglect right? The people that have been good to us and that we've provided service for. So anyways, yeah, about 50% of it comes from that, which is huge.
Yeah.
And it really, at any given time, once your database gets to a significant size, which by the way, I think is just a few hundred people, not, thousands of people where mine is today. You can kind of go into that room almost at any time and, make your connection and reconnect, with customers, and probably walk out with transactions that are both good for you and both good for the customer.
Right.
And so, sometimes I think about it, guys, like this isn't even about the revenue. It's not even about the income. It's actually about doing what I say I'm going to do when I close with my customer. So when my customer closes on a transaction, what I say is, I'm going to watch things for you, and I'm going to help you, and I'm going to continue to be here for you. And I absolutely feel guilty if I'm not doing that. Because, we can assume that everyone knows what's going on and when they should take action, but that's not true at all.
Right.
That's why there are people, like me in the business, is to help. Right. And so, I feel like to some degree, for a loan officer, for a realtor, and for anyone that's in a business where there is a repeat business opportunity, you not only owe it to yourself, but you owe it to your customers to look out for them and to be in touch with them and to guide them, and not just when they're doing their transaction, but in the future too. If you know something that could help somebody and you don't tell them, isn't that kind of wrong? I don't know. I feel like kind of guilty if I don't do that. So that's a big part of it for me too.
Especially when you're selling them on the fact that, hey, I'm here to help you. I'm going to be a resource. I'm here for the long term. And then I've always wondered this number, and I don't know if Todd Duncan's ever said it or whatever, but what percentage of loan officers just flat out never call their customer again? I bought 4 homes in San Diego since 2009. I've never heard from a loan officer that I've used ever again, ever, right? That's crazy to me, right? I'm a young investor, right? I do commercial loans now, right? Nobody's called me in the last 2 months to see what's going on. I had to look into it myself, and I'm just like, how does that happen? How many of these people that I work for said they were going to do this and just literally didn't even send me a birthday card, couldn't give me a call just to say what's up, but they're busy because they have the hunter mindset. And so they're going to be a transactional hunter forever, right? Always hunting for the new client, always hunting for the new business, versus doing what you're doing, right? Which is very much more farming, right? Planting seeds, being there for your clients long-term to serve them, to help them. And then actually, what a concept, following through on what you said you're going to do. Like you and I talked about, you should not be going to one more conference this year until you actually just start calling everybody in your database at least once a year. If you're not doing that, which I would guess 50, 60, 70% of loan officers are not, maybe you have a better guess than me, but if you're not doing that, do not go to the next conference.
Right.
That's, it's just, to me, it's just, I don't know, it's beyond insanity, because the one thing that you're building, if you're a salesperson, real estate, loans, insurance, knives, whatever you're doing, you are building your asset in that sales business is your database. It is your book of business. That is, if you do have a saleable business, that's what's saleable. If you are going to have something that's going to bring in, income long-term, it's going to come from that. And so
who called it? Who called it the ATM, Adam? Who called it?